Hey guys, welcome to the channel. And Privet, bonjour, ciao, guten tag, and hola to my foreign friends. And today we're going to be cleaning this swell center balloon in jack up. It's two-bladed, and it's made by Camillus. You see right there. The blades aren't horrible, but they've been ground unevenly, so we'll probably work on that. Also, this knife, you can see right there, somebody reprofiled the blade. And on the other side, you see the same thing. It's hard to take that out, those grinds out, but what I can do is I can even it up so it all looks the same. It doesn't look quite as hideous, but I can't bring it back to natural. The only way to do that is just grind the blade flat, and I don't want to take all that metal off. And so we'll work on that. We'll bring back the mirror polish to this knife that was once on it. And the celluloid is kind of cloudy on this, not really bright and vibrant. And so I'm going to work on that a little bit, and I'm going to bring that celluloid back, show you guys how to do that. Otherwise, the knife looks pretty good. It's not pitted. Doesn't look like it's pitted too bad. Maybe a little bit there. And so initially, that's what I do. I open the knife up. I do a function test. Then I'll take the blades, and I'll take a brass brush. Don't use stainless steel on steel, because stainless steel will scratch carbon steel. And so I always use a brass brush, and I'll just go over like that real quick for a while, maybe 3 minutes, and I'll do that on every blade. And I'll do it on the back here like this, clean the back up, and then I'll hit this a little bit here too, like that. And that's all I do for my initial cleaning. And then I'll put a little drop, just a tiny bit of oil right here on the sides of the blade, and I'll put it right here where the back spring touches the tang, and then I'll work those blades for 3 to 5 times. Then I put just a single drop of oil on the blade, and I'll spread that out like that and do the other side, and I'm done. And I learned to do that because I've had this knife for about 4 years, and I've never cleaned it up. So that's why I do an initial cleaning on a knife, because it can take some time for me to get to it to clean it up. And I don't want it to degrade or rust any more than it already has. And that's what I do on an initial cleaning. And then I'm going to show you how I do an in-depth cleaning on these knives. So we'll get to that here in a minute. Okay guys, I'm going to start cleaning this knife up with 320 grit, what I call my first layer. These sheets are 4x8. Sometimes I use a bigger sheet, 11 inch. When I do that, I can fold it and make 3 of these size sheets. Once I have a sheet this size, I'll fold that over and make sheets this size. So I'm basically folding that in half. And then when I cut that and I have a sheet this side, I'll fold it in half. And that's what I work with. I also keep old pieces, as you can see here. And I'll use that to get into really small places and inside the knife. And so the first place I'm going to start here is I open the knife up, work inside out. That way, if I have a problem, I can clean that problem up. The last I'm going to do is the outside of the knife, and that way I don't have to worry about, messing something up before I get to it. So this sheet, I fold it over. You see it folds right into the tang, and I just scrub on the tang like that, and I'll scrub it for a while. Usually I count to 30, and I try to give equal strokes to everything. I'll do this side right here, count till 30, and I give all of them that 30. Then I'll stick it down in the throat. You can see that right there. It fits snugly. And I'll start scraping, and I'm scraping the bottom of the back of the back spring is what I'm doing, cleaning that up inside there. And I'll do that again for 30 seconds, switch it over, and then I'll do this side for 30 seconds, and we'll just work that and clean it. After I'm done doing that, then I'll switch to the sides, the liners here, and I'll press down towards the liner like that and start cleaning these liners up like that. You can hear it, and I'm hitting the liners right now, scrubbing all that crap off the liners, getting them cleaned up, looking good. You can see already it's starting to shine in there, and you see that right there. So initially this is going to cause a few little scratches on the knife. Don't worry about it, because we're going to keep going. And already you can see it's shining down in there. It's really easy to do. Doesn't take a lot of effort. And so I'll work on that a little bit, and then we'll look at what's done. Okay guys, this is like 5 minutes after I started. And when we first started, you couldn't even see the metal, and you can see how that's shining up already. There's some problem areas right here. I think that's actually a gouge in there, but I'll hit it again with the 320. And what I do is just go ahead and hit it, and then look at it. And the problem areas you can go back and get. So problem area is always going to be on your right here. You can see it's dark and it's nice and shiny here, and it's just hard. The grit kind of accumulates there, and you kind of have to spend some time cleaning that off. But you can see that already with just the first coat, it's shining up really nice. And so on the inside like this, I usually only do 2 coats, 320 and 400, and then I'll leave it be. And um, if the inside is, if it's a nice knife and the inside is mirror polished, then I'll go ahead and I may go up in grits to preserve that mirror polish. These Camilluses were not well finished on the inside. You can see the little lines from where the back spring was cut out in there. So I'm not going to worry about mirror polishing that. I'll just go over another coat with 400, and I'll be done on the inside there. You can see over here on the spacer, you see the brass spacer right there. So I hit that and it shined up and you can see it, but I'll probably take a little bit more time. You can see there's some grunge right there, and I'll hit that again with the 320, hit these problem areas right here, and then I'll be done with that. And when I'm doing this, when I put this down in here, I showed you earlier on another video, I have this little popsicle tool. I just sit it down inside here, and I'm using that to apply pressure. Otherwise, it's really hard to apply pressure down inside there. And so I'm doing that like right there. And it starts to get that stuff out of there. All right, we'll keep working at it, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, guys, so you look down in there, you can see the brass liner looks pretty good. The tang looks pretty good on this knife. You can see how shiny that brass liner is on the on the spacer there. And The problem areas I've cleaned up pretty good. You can see the brass in there and all down in there. And I've hit that, I've hit that with some steel wool on the inside. Using my little leverage tool there, the popsicle stick. And you can see it just does a fantastic job of cleaning the knife up. This took about 10 minutes. For a lot of you guys, that's going to be good. And it does look pretty good down in there. And so I'll hit that again with at least 400, maybe going to 600. I don't know. I'll just see how I feel about it when I look at it. So now I'm going to move to the top side, and I'm going to hit these top squares right here before I move on to the blade. Okay guys, I'm cleaning this out, and if you look down in there, it looks pretty good. You can see that cleans up really nice. Couldn't even see the back of the back springs there until I hit that with the sandpaper, and it just looks pretty nice. But you can see down in there, there's some pits, and I can still see a little bit of rust down there in the pits. So I'm going to take my little pick here, and I'm just going to get down in here, and I'm going to pick at that real light. And the sharp end of this pick is going to get into those little pits that are in here, and it's going to clean that up. It's going to clean that rust out of there. Also, this area here is kind of hard to hit with sandpaper, and right where the two meet. And so I'll just hit that with the pick and work that a little bit in there and get all that rust off of there. Then I'll run a little bit of steel wool in there and clean that up. So one thing you notice probably is you can see the rust there. You need to get that out of there. And that pick is probably going to be the only way that you do that. And so one thing you might notice here is I'm not soaking this in oil. And so when you put your knife into a bowl of oil, on natural materials, it's not really good for them. Wood, mother of pearl, bone will soak that oil up. It'll darken them, and it'll basically ruin them. On synthetic materials like this, it'll get down in behind here. It does its job. It's great for the knife, by the way, but it's not real good for your scales. It'll get down behind here and it'll discolor your scales. And on lighter scale materials, you'll see that oil as a stain on the back of your scales. And so it's not a real good practice to do. Does a great job cleaning your knife, but it's not real good for your scales. So if you just feel compelled that, man, I need to oil this thing, open your knife up like this, get WD-40 with a straw and spray down in there, but keep your knife set on something so that it sits up like this. So it sits straight up. That way the oil can drain down these areas here, and it's not soaking into your scale material. I don't use very little oil at all. And so what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of oil on a gun patch like this, and I'll push it down in there, and I'll run it around, and it'll just lightly coat it with oil. And that's all you need to do. So you don't really need to, soak it. Some knives may be heavily corroded, and they may need that. And that's when I would take WD-40, spray it down in there, but leave the knife up sitting straight like this on a couple pennies or a couple quarters or something, so that the oil will drain down and not into the scale material. but I would really avoid, dunking your whole knife into oil or hot soapy water if you can get away with that. And so we're done here. I'm ready to move on to the blades. You can see that's cleaned up nice. There's no rust in there at all. It's cleaned it all up. It only took about 10-15 minutes to do all of that stuff. And then we're going to move on to the blades. Okay guys, we are finished with our first coat on this knife. You can see the bolsters are shining already on it. And I left this bolster just the way it was. It's kind of a matte silver looking. And you can see the other side is shiny right there. And that's the difference between cleaning these up. I do use sandpaper on these bolsters, but when you do that, do it really light. You don't have to press hard. It's nickel silver. It's a lot softer than the carbon steel. So just hit it light. If you look on the edges there, you don't see anywhere where I've hit the scale material as I cut that sandpaper across here. And that's because I can do that. So if you're worried about screwing your scales up, just put you a little bit of painter's tape, that blue tape, and tape it off right there. And you can do the same thing on your shield if you're worried about messing your scale material up. Lay a little bit of painter's tape across there. Use a X-Acto blade to cut out around your shield. Pull that tape up from your shield, and then you'll have tape on all the way around it in the shape of your shield, protecting your scales. I just get in there and sand it, and I don't have any problem doing that. So we'll open these blades up, and right away you can see they're shiny. If you remember, they were all dark and nasty looking before, and there's already a pretty good shine on this blade. And that's what 320 grit will do for you. And so I'll keep at this, and I'll keep going up to 1,000 grit. And when I'm done, there'll be a mirror polish on there. So if you look, you see there's some pitting there. I'm not going to worry about that. That's just natural. And I just shine it up, and it'll still have the pits. If you go to sell this knife, those pits being in there will tell a collector that it's the original blade and it hasn't been replaced. It's just been shined up. If you take a electric sander, which is a whole lot easier than sanding it by hand, it's really hard to maintain the profile of this blade. Even on flat grinds, it's difficult. And within a matter of seconds, you can take too much metal off. So I just don't do it. And you can see here, if you remember, somebody had reprofiled that blade and there were all deep grind marks in it. And I've taken those out. Let's, there we go. So I've taken those out. You can see that there. They look pretty good. And all of this only took about 15 minutes to clean that up. And the other thing is, remember the edge was uneven, and so I flattened that out some, and I well, let's go back in. Let's just stay magnified. So I've gone back in, and you can see I put a nice edge on that right there. And it's not perfect, but I don't, to take all these, come on, snap in, take all these baubles out right there, for instance. I just have to take out too much metal. I don't want to do that. I want to keep as much of the metal on there as possible. And we'll look at the other side here. This was the worst one, and you can see it's come out pretty good. Still a few baubles in there. You can see right here there's a dip. And again, I'd have to take out another 16 inch of metal and I don't want this any thinner than it already is. One of the grading criteria for the value of a knife is the amount of metal you have on your blade. And so I don't want to just take that down to a pencil just to have it straight. I'll just clean it up so it looks pretty good. And it does. It doesn't look too bad. And this is the other side. You can see a nice edge on there. You can also see those little cuts in there, but I'd have to take that whole edge off, another 16th off this knife. I don't want to do it. And you see right there. All right. And that's the first coat on the knife. You can look at the back spring here. There's some pits there. Again, to take those out, you're going to have to grind the whole back of the knife, and you're going to end up screwing that up. You'll have to reprofile your scales, everything. So I just get it cleaned up so it's looking good, and then I'll polish it up. I'll put a mirror polish on that back there. And so that's 320 grit. I'll hit this with the scale material with stainless wool quad aught, and I'll do that every time up until I get to about 800. And once I get to 800, I'll go ahead and sand this, and you'll see that it'll take all this crap off, and it'll put the deep celluloid beautiful shine back onto this knife. And so I may pop back in here. I may end this video and just show you a video of when it's done. You're basically doing the same thing I just showed you for all the different grits. This is not the only way to clean a knife. It's not the best way to clean a knife. It's just the way I clean my knife. I've used a bunch of different ways. I find that you get the best results from doing it this way, is just refinishing the whole knife basically. And I'll clean it up and I'll show it to you in another video. Maybe I'll just add it to the end here and make it quick. And that's how I clean a knife. So thanks for watching. Okay guys, this is the finished results here. Took me 3 hours to do this. I think you can see we've restored the luster to that celluloid there. Looks really nice. Mirror finish. Let me see if I can get this here. You can see there's a mirror finish on that. On the bolsters. Back looks really good. And just to recap, we did this with the 320, then the 400, then the 600, then the 800. Usually I go to 1,000, but I didn't go to 1,000 on this knife. And I'll show you down inside here. I can get some light in there. That's I went to 600, ended up going to 600 on the inside here. You can see just nicely shined up there. And then we'll look at the blades real quick here. So it's a mirror polish on those blades. It still has those pits on there. To take those out, you'd have to grind them on an electric grinder. You're going to end up messing up the profile on the blade. And I just don't want to destroy the collector value on the knife, so I just don't do it. I do it by hand. You can see the nice edge we put on there. Remember how that edge was? And you can look back at the front of this video and see what this knife looked like before we started. And it only took 3 hours to clean her up. You definitely can do it a lot quicker. Use a Dremel on this. You're not going to get that nice mirror polish that you see on there. When you buff these things out with a Dremel, kind of leaves like little patches. It's I'm sure you've seen it. It looks like a design almost, and that's because the Dremel is skipping along the edge. But you know, that was pretty bad off right there, and we straightened it out pretty good. See that? So anyhow, that's how the takeaway from here, I think, is you can see how much nicer that celluloid looks like. So you can sand celluloid. I don't do it with a 350 grit. I usually don't start until 60, and I hit it with some quad off to start, and then I'll sand it. And you're just taking off the outer layers of it that turn yellow. Plastics turn yellow with ultraviolet light. And you can really restore the luster of that celluloid by cleaning it up a little. Just really nice polish on that. Look at that. All right. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it informative, that it helped you out. And I really appreciate you guys for watching the channel. If you'd like to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel. Remember, you'll know the truth. The truth will set you free. And really appreciate you guys for watching.